They say war changes you. But for me, it wasn't the war that did it. It was what happened when I came back. My name is David Walker. I'm 32 years old, and this is the story I never thought I'd have to tell. I was deployed for 9 months in the Middle East. Hot, dry, unforgiving. Every day felt like a gamble. Bullets didn't care about your name, your dreams, or the people waiting for you at home. You just tried to make it to sunset. And if you were lucky, sunrise again. But through all of it, I had one thing that kept me going. Her photo. It was this old Polaroid. Just her laughing on our porch, wind in her hair, holding our dog. I kept it in my helmet, under the padding, close to my head. Sometimes when the nights got loud with gunfire or too quiet to sleep, I'd take it out, run my thumb over her smile, and remember what I was fighting for. Her name was Emily. We'd been together for 6 years, married for 3, and not once did I ever question her. Not once. When I left, she kissed me goodbye, held my face, and told me to come home safe. She said she'd be waiting, and I believed her. I also believed in Mark, my best friend since high school. He was at our wedding. He gave a speech that made people cry. He was family, my brother in everything but blood. When I shipped out, he promised to check in on her, make sure everything was good. I thanked him like it was the greatest favor anyone could do. Because I trusted him. I trusted them both. And that's what made everything hurt so much more. The day I left felt like someone hit pause on my life. I stood at the airport, uniform pressed, bag in hand, pretending I was ready. Emily was holding back tears, and I kept telling her it was going to be okay. I didn't believe it, but I needed her to. Mark was there too. He clapped me on the back, told me he was proud of me, told me not to worry about anything back home. He said he'd check in on Emily every now and then, just to make sure she wasn't alone too much. I remember thanking him like it meant the world, because at the time, it did. I looked at them one last time before boarding, my wife and my best friend, 2 people I loved more than anything. I thought they'd be my anchors. I thought they'd keep each other grounded while I was gone. That thought gave me peace. Deployment was like stepping into a different world. The heat hits you first, then the noise, then the silence between the noise. You start counting days, then weeks. Then you stop counting because it just hurts too much. You wake up to orders, go to sleep to explosions. Sometimes you don't sleep at all. But I kept her photo with me, every day, folded in my chest pocket, worn around the edges, and on the back of it she had written, "Come home to me." I used to whisper those words to myself before bed. I made it a ritual. Come home to me. Come home to me. Like it was a prayer. And every time things got bad, when I couldn't tell if I was going to see the next sunrise, I'd think about the life I left behind. I'd think about the house, the smell of coffee in the morning, her laugh echoing down the hallway. And I'd think about Mark stopping by to fix something around the house or bring groceries when she didn't want to go out. I pictured it like some movie in my head, this perfect little world waiting for me to step back into it. That image kept me alive. Because when you're out there, thousands of miles from everything you know, you start to break things down to the simplest truths. I'm alive. I have someone waiting. I have a home to return to. And that thought is enough to carry you through the worst of it. I held on to that, with everything I had. It's funny how fast you can get used to chaos. After a while, the sound of gunfire doesn't even make you flinch. You start to recognize the difference between distant shots and the ones that mean, get down now. You learn to eat fast, sleep light, and never take your boots off unless you have to. But no matter how numb you get, there's always something back home pulling at you. For me, it was her. Every night, I'd take a minute to pull her picture out of my vest. Even if I only had a few seconds, I'd look at it. That one moment reminded me I was still human, that I had a reason to make it out. I wasn't fighting for politics or orders. I was fighting to come back to Emily. I used to imagine what she was doing. If she was sitting on the couch wrapped in that old blanket, if she was making tea like she always did when she couldn't sleep. I'd picture her smiling when she got one of my letters. I didn't write often, but when I did, I poured everything into them. Every word I wrote was a piece of home I was trying to hold on to. Mark sent me a few emails too, said he was checking in on her like he promised, told me she was holding up okay. He said she missed me, but she was strong, and I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my best friend. He was the guy who stood next to me at my wedding, the guy who knew all my secrets and still stuck around. Sometimes after patrols, we'd all sit around in the dirt and talk about what we missed most. Some guys missed their kids, some missed their moms. I always said I missed my wife. Every time, I'd talk about her like she was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because she was. And Mark? I'd talk about him too. About how lucky I was to have a friend like that. A friend I could trust with the thing that meant the most to me. That trust was everything. Out there, where everything is uncertain, where life can flip in a second, trust is the only thing that makes the fear manageable. You tell yourself that the people back home are safe, that they're thinking of you, that they're waiting for you. I used to think about the day I'd come home, the airport, her running into my arms, Mark standing nearby, probably filming the whole thing like an idiot, cracking jokes. I played that moment over and over in my head. It was the thing that kept me breathing. The idea that even if everything else fell apart, I still had them. I still had my wife. I still had my best friend. That thought got me through hell. Before the war, life was simple. Not perfect, but simple. I had a routine. I'd wake up early, drink my coffee slow, and head to work. Emily would always kiss me on the cheek before I left. It was one of those small things you don't realize means the world until it's gone. And Mark? He was always around, always showing up with some story, always dragging me out for a drink or dropping by unannounced to borrow something he never returned. We had history. Me and Mark went way back, met in middle school, got into fights together, got out of trouble together. He was the kind of guy who'd give you his last dollar and talk trash while doing it. We knew each other's families. We crashed on each other's couches more times than I can count. He helped me through my parents' divorce. I helped him through his brother's funeral. We'd been through stuff. Real stuff. He wasn't just my friend. He was my brother. When I met Emily, he was the first person I introduced her to. She liked him instantly, said he was funny, said he had that kind of energy that made people feel comfortable, and he liked her too. I remember him pulling me aside after our first double date and saying, "Don't mess this up, man, she's a good one." I laughed, but I knew he was right. They got along well, maybe too well. But back then, I didn't see anything wrong with it. I thought it was a good thing. My best friend and my wife actually enjoying each other's company. What more could I ask for? We'd all hang out together, the three of us. Game nights, barbecues, lazy Sundays watching bad movies. It was easy. It felt right. Even when I got the call for deployment, things still felt solid. Emily cried a little, sure, but she was strong. She hugged me tight and said she'd hold it down at home. And Mark? He promised me he'd look after her like a sister. He said it with a straight face. He said, "I got her, man. Don't even worry." And I didn't. I left thinking I was leaving my life in good hands. I trusted them both more than anyone else in the world. I trusted them with my heart, my home, everything that mattered to me. Looking back, maybe I trusted too much. Maybe I wanted to believe that love and loyalty were stronger than distance and time. But back then I didn't have doubts. I didn't have second thoughts. I believed in the life we built. I believed in the people I chose. And that belief kept me sane. You ever hold on to something so tightly that you don't even realize your knuckles are white? That's what coming home felt like. I was holding on to this picture in my head. Me, Emily, our house, our life, just waiting for me. Like I could press play and it would all start right where I left it. That's what I believed. When the plane landed, I had this nervous energy. Not fear, just a rush of everything. Relief, excitement, hope. I hadn't slept in over 24 hours, but I didn't feel tired. I just wanted to see her. I wanted to hold her and breathe again. You spend so long holding your breath out there, just trying to make it home. And now I was here. I made it. She was there at the airport, smiling, waving. It looked right. It looked exactly like how I imagined. But something felt off. I couldn't explain it then. I just thought maybe I was tired or overwhelmed. She hugged me, kissed me, told me she missed me. I held her so tight I think I forgot where I was for a second. That first night back, we sat in silence a lot. I thought it was just adjustment. I thought maybe she needed time, just like I did. Mark didn't show up right away. I figured he'd give us space. That made sense. But a few days passed and he hadn't called. That wasn't like him. He was always the first one knocking on the door, cracking jokes, dragging me out to catch up. I sent him a text. No reply. I called, straight to voicemail. Still, I didn't jump to conclusions. I just assumed something came up. People get busy. Life moves on. But then I started noticing small things that wouldn't have mattered on their own. She kept her phone close, closer than usual, locked it more often. She seemed distracted, distant. I'd catch her staring off like she was somewhere else entirely. And when I asked what was wrong, she'd smile and say she was just tired. I was too, but my tired didn't come with secrets. Every night I tried to settle back in. I tried to reconnect. I kept telling myself it just takes time. She just needs time. I had been gone after all. Things change. People change. I didn't want to be the guy who came home and expected everything to be exactly the same. But deep down, something wasn't sitting right. I kept thinking about Mark, about how close they got before I left, about all the times he'd swing by when I wasn't home, about the way they laughed a little too easily around each other. And still, I told myself it was nothing. I pushed it away, because I didn't want to believe that the two people I trusted most could ever do something that cruel. I wanted to believe the story I carried with me through war, the story where I came home to love, to loyalty, to the people who waited for me like I waited for them. But sometimes the stories we tell ourselves are just that, stories. And the truth waits in the silence, whether we're ready for it or not. There's a moment when your gut knows something your mind refuses to accept. You feel it before you see it, before you hear it. It sits in your chest like a weight, and no matter how many times you try to ignore it, it stays. That's how it started for me. A feeling I couldn't shake. I started waking up before her, just lying there in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the way she breathed beside me. It didn't sound the same. It didn't feel the same. She used to curl into me when she slept. Now she faced the other way. I told myself it was nothing, just a phase, just her readjusting. But every day, that voice inside me got louder. I started noticing little things, the way she checked her phone and turned it face down, the way she'd say she was going to the store and be gone for hours, the way she avoided my eyes when we talked about the time I was gone. Before, she used to want every detail. Now she barely asked, like she didn't want to remember it, or maybe didn't feel guilty enough to pretend. I tried not to jump to conclusions. I reminded myself that I'd been gone almost a year. People develop routines. They grow in different directions. But even with all that, I still believed in her. I still believed in us. I kept thinking if I just tried harder, if I just gave it time, things would fall back into place. But something didn't sit right with Mark. He still hadn't called, still hadn't shown up. Not even a welcome back text. That man used to be the first one in line to greet me after a trip to the store. And now? Nothing. I asked her about him once, just casually. She said she hadn't seen him in a while either, that he was probably just busy, but her voice shook a little when she said it. Just enough for me to notice. I tried to forget it. I tried to let it go. But the more I looked, the more I saw. There was a day I came home early from a doctor's appointment. She didn't hear me come in. She was on the phone, whispering. I didn't catch the words, just the tone. Nervous, low, like someone trying not to be overheard. And when she realized I was there, she jumped, said it was her sister, and hung up fast. Too fast. I wanted to ask her right then. I wanted to put it all on the table. But I didn't, because asking would make it real. And I wasn't ready for real. I wasn't ready for everything I had fought for to start falling apart. I went outside instead, sat on the porch, watched cars pass by like nothing had changed, but everything had. I just didn't have the proof yet. And part of me still hoped I was wrong. Part of me still hoped I was just paranoid, that I was just broken from the war, that the worst thing I could imagine wasn't actually happening. But deep down, I already knew. I just didn't know how far it went. I never wanted to be that guy, the one who looks for answers in the dark, who pushes and pries until the truth finally breaks free. But sometimes, when the silence gets too loud, you have no choice. You have to dig, even if what you find shatters everything. One evening, I found myself at a crossroads. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying moments in my head, conversations that didn't add up, smiles that felt forced, little things that suddenly felt huge. My gut was screaming, but I kept telling myself, don't be crazy. Maybe she's just stressed. Maybe Mark's just busy. Maybe it's nothing. But the more I tried to believe that, the less I believed it. I started looking at the small details I had brushed off before. The coffee cup that wasn't mine on the kitchen counter. The scent of a cologne that wasn't mine lingering in the air. The way her phone lit up in the middle of the night, and she quickly silenced it. The way she jumped every time I asked about Mark. I knew I was walking on thin ice, but I needed to know. I needed to understand how deep this went. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her messages. I told myself it was just to find peace, to silence the doubts. But the screen lit up with names and words that stabbed through me like a knife. There were conversations, secret ones, late at night, flirting, laughing in ways I hadn't heard from her in months. And then, the messages from Mark. Casual, familiar, too familiar, like they were a pair who had shared something I wasn't supposed to know about. It wasn't just words on a screen. It was the proof I'd been trying to avoid. The reason behind the distance, the reason Mark disappeared. I felt my world cracking, piece by piece. The home I had fought so hard to come back to was no longer mine. It was something else. Something I didn't recognize. But even in that moment, there was a part of me that wanted to deny it. Wanted to pretend it was a mistake. That I had misread it all. That this was just a bad dream I'd wake up from. I wasn't ready to lose them. Not like this. So I put the phone down. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I told myself I needed to talk to them first, that I needed to hear their side. Because no matter how much it hurt, I deserved that much. I deserved the truth straight from them. And I promised myself one thing. I wasn't going to let this break me. Because if war hadn't taken me down, then nothing would. Not even the people I trusted most. I remember the first time I confronted them. I told myself I'd do it calm, steady, like a man who's seen the worst and come out stronger. But when I stood there, looking at them both, everything inside me shook. My voice wasn't steady at all. It cracked. I stumbled over the words I'd practiced 1,000 times in my head. I asked them if it was true, if what I suspected was real. And they didn't deny it. Not at first. Instead, there was silence. That heavy kind that fills the room and makes your skin crawl. I could see it in Emily's eyes. Guilt, shame, something I hadn't seen before. And in Mark's, I saw regret mixed with something else. Something I didn't understand yet. They told me the truth. Slowly, painfully. It wasn't just a mistake or a moment of weakness, it was months. While I was gone, while I was fighting for my life, they had betrayed me in the worst way possible. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. It felt like my entire world collapsed. The life I had imagined, the future I had planned, it all crumbled right there in front of me. I wanted to scream, to yell, to break something, but I didn't. I just stood there, numb. I kept thinking, how could they do this? How could my best friend and my wife, the two people I trusted most, betray me like this? I wanted answers, but the answers only made the pain worse. They told me about the loneliness, about the late nights when I was gone, about the way things started small and then spiraled out of control. I listened, even though every word felt like a knife twisting in my heart. I tried to understand. I really did. I told myself people make mistakes, people are human. But that didn't change what they did. It didn't erase the nights I spent alone, scared, praying to come home. It didn't change the fact that while I was risking everything, they were crossing lines I never thought they would. In that moment, I realized trust isn't something you can just rebuild with apologies. It's fragile, and once broken, it leaves scars that never fully heal. But even in the darkest moments, I held on to one thing: myself. I knew I had to keep going. Not for them, but for me. Because no matter what happened, I deserved that much. I deserved to stand tall again, even if it was on my own. And so, I did, slowly. One painful step at a time. I never thought forgiveness would be part of my story. Not like this. Not after everything. But there I was, sitting alone in that empty house, trying to figure out what came next. The anger, the betrayal. It was all still there, burning inside me. But so was something else. A strange kind of weariness, like I'd been fighting a war inside my own heart. And now it was time to lay down my arms. I kept asking myself what forgiveness really meant. Was it letting them off the hook? Was it pretending it never happened? Or was it something harder? Something deeper? I didn't have the answers. All I knew was that holding on to the pain wasn't helping me. It was only making me smaller, keeping me trapped in a place I didn't want to live. I thought about Mark, about Emily, about the years we shared before everything went wrong, about the good times that still felt real, even if they were buried beneath the hurt. And I realized maybe forgiveness wasn't for them. Maybe it was for me. A way to find peace when nothing else seemed possible. I didn't want to pretend everything was okay. I didn't want to forget what happened. But I wanted to stop carrying the weight of it like a chain around my neck. I wanted to breathe again, to believe that life could still hold something good for me. It wasn't easy. Some days, the bitterness would rise up like a storm threatening to pull me under. But I kept reminding myself that forgiveness was a choice to stop being defined by the worst moments in my life, a choice to try and find light, even in the darkest places. I started focusing on myself, on rebuilding who I was beyond the pain. I reached out to old friends, to family. I took walks, ran, tried to find small moments of joy that didn't feel like a betrayal to what I'd lost. And slowly, little by little, I began to see a path forward. Not the path I imagined before, but my own. One I had to walk alone at first, but not forever. Because in the end, forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing to live, even when the past tries to hold you back. And that's what I decided to do. To live, to move on, to find myself again. After the dust settled, I realized something important. Healing doesn't come all at once. It's not a switch you flip or a chapter you close overnight. It's a slow, messy process. Some days you feel like you're moving forward. Other days it feels like you're back at the beginning, trying to pick up the pieces all over again. I started to understand that pain has its own rhythm. It doesn't disappear just because you want it to. Sometimes it hides, waiting to catch you off guard. Sometimes it flares up when you least expect it. When you hear a song, or drive past a place, or catch a glimpse of something that reminds you of what you lost. But in those moments, I learned to breathe through it, to accept it, to let it be part of my story without letting it define me. It wasn't easy. Some days I still felt angry. Some days the loneliness was unbearable. but I kept going. Because I had to. Because life didn't stop just because mine was broken. I found new ways to fill the silence. I started writing again. Letters I never sent, thoughts I never shared. I took up running, letting the rhythm of my footsteps drown out the noise inside my head. I reconnected with people I had lost touch with. I let myself be vulnerable, even when it felt like the hardest thing in the world. Slowly, I started to find pieces of joy again. Not the loud, overwhelming kind, but quiet moments. The warmth of sunlight on my face, a smile from a stranger, a phone call from a friend who just wanted to check in. I realized that life goes on. It doesn't erase the past, but it doesn't have to be chained to it either. There's freedom in moving forward, even when the scars are still there. And through it all, I kept asking myself one question: who do I want to be now? Not the man who was broken by betrayal, not the man who lost everything, but the man who chose to rise, the man who chose to live. Because at the end of the day, that's all any of us can do. Keep moving, keep fighting, keep hoping, and maybe, just maybe, find a way to forgive ourselves along the way. There's a moment in every man's life when everything he thought he knew gets turned upside down. When the ground beneath him feels like it's crumbling, and the future he imagined slips further and further away. For me, that moment came the day I realized I had to rebuild, not just my life, but myself. Thank you for listening to my story. If you like this kind of content, kindly like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thank you.